welcome back to Charlottesville Insights. This is Jeff Gaffney, your host, and with us on the program today we have Scott Shellenberger of Movement Mortgage. Scott, thanks for being on the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Movement Mortgage, I'm a huge fan. Let's just talk for a moment for our listeners about Movement Mortgage. I want to talk about, because it's a great company, I want to talk about for our listeners why you chose to go with Movement Mortgage. You're now the area sales manager. Big job here in Charlottesville. What drew you to Movement Mortgage?
Jeff, great question. Real simple answer. Been in the business 18 plus years, and most of the companies I've been affiliated with have been sales driven and not really driven operational, meaning the customers are served first. At Movement Mortgage, what sets us apart is our people and really how we process through the file. 6-hour underwriting turn times, 7-day full approvals, simple application, loan officer collects necessary documentations, and we take over from there.
Mm-hmm. So how easy is it to get pre-approved with Movement Mortgage today? I mean, I know nothing's easy in real estate today, but it can be done over the phone? Or?
Yep, you can do it over the phone. All our loan officers, local loan officers, have websites that you can use. We have an area website, meet in person, very simple, typically a 10-15 minute phone conversation. We can get all the necessary information and go from there.
Let me make sure our listeners understand the difference between being pre-qualified and pre-approved. There's a huge difference. Pre-approved gives you a huge leg up when you go in and to submit a contract. And Scott, one of the things we're seeing in today's real estate market in the greater Charlottesville area is we're starting to see multiple contracts come in, particularly in that under $450 price range. And if you submit a contract and you're pre-approved, you're way ahead of the guy who's just pre-qualified, because every seller wants to know what's the position of the buyer. And so that's something I think every potential buyer should do before they venture out to put in a contract. Get themselves pre-approved, and of course through Movement Mortgage.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great point. You can't overstate it enough. Really, a pre-approval is you go through the process, we pull your credit, we collect some income asset documentations, and we get it in front of an underwriter. So when you have that ability to find the home you love and write the contract, you know that you're qualified to do so, and you can move forward with that contract.
And plus, oftentimes what I've seen, Scott, is that if you don't do it that way and get pre-approved before shopping, if you go down the other road, oftentimes you submit a contract, get the contract accepted, then you walk into the lender's office, you make your formal application, and you find out about the problem then, and that is just setting yourself up for failure. If there are any issues to be tended to, you really need to take care of them before you go shopping for your home. And oftentimes what I've found with the folks, you're really trustworthy loan officers here in Charlottesville, is that they have really good advice on sometimes if there's a credit issue that needs to be cleaned up, or maybe there's some debt that needs to be taken care of before you go shopping.
Yes, definitely. It's easier to see it up front and kind of go from there. Maybe there's a credit issue from way back when. Maybe you didn't pay a power bill in college that's sneaking onto your credit all of a sudden. We can take care of that up front. There's no delays in the closing. And when you do find that home, you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Let's also want to mention that you're one of your owners is a big UVA football graduate, Casey. Can you talk about Casey just a little bit? And what he means to the company?
Yes, Casey Crawford is one of our founders. Played for UVA football. He was a tight end here, went on to play in the NFL. I think he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, with Buccaneers maybe?
I think it was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe back in the Gruden days.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy, loves to serve people, believes that movement is developed to change our industry, to make a movement of change, so to say, in our industry, where customers and real estate agents and builders come first. And it's an unbelievable process to witness. It truly is.
Let me talk about that, because there is one other thing I want our listeners to know about Movement Mortgage, and that is y'all have a big foundation where you're giving a lot of money back into the communities where you served. I think it's the Movement Foundation, and I've talked with one of your loan officers, Steve Hargett, on that, and so you guys are really doing some good things in the community, so hats off to you for that.
Yes, thank you. Giving back is very important to the organization.
Let's talk about interest rates just a little bit without specifics, but in general, we've all had this fear that interest rates were going to go up, and they really don't seem like they've moved a whole lot. It's still a great time for somebody to either buy a home or refinance. It seems like amazing times in the real estate industry.
Yes, anytime you can get an interest rate under 4%.
Can you believe we're saying under 4%?
Still, it's incredible. And think about this, even jumbo interest rates, and when I say jumbo, I'm talking loan amounts over 417, they're still on 30-year fixed under 4%. So imagine getting that kind of money at that kind of interest rate. It's just the purchase power that creates. It's got to help the industry. It's got to help real estate.
Amazing interest rates, and so I do want to make a plug for Movement Mortgage. If you're happy in the home where you are and you're thinking about refinancing, you should go to movement.com also. Again, take advantage of these low interest rates. I know my wife, when I get home, when she listens to this program, is going to say, I want one of those 3 3/4% interest rates, because we don't have that right now.
I think everybody should have something under 4%. While they're out there, let's get it.
Yeah, I'm with you. So let me ask this. We're going to take a break in a few minutes. We're talking with Scott Shellenberger of Movement Mortgage. This whole TRID thing, can you walk through just a little bit for our listeners what TRID means and any impact that had on the industry kind of last fall? We had a little slowdown of closings. It's just some new guidelines.
Yeah, TRID's a beautiful thing. It's out there for the customer, it's for the client, it's for the borrower. It's really in the industry to generalize, to make sure that the lender's doing the right thing to each and every borrower. A couple of the changes allow for the borrower to see their closing costs and the fees involved a few extra times, but definitely in the end to see it prior to going to closing. A lot of times in the past, the first time a borrower would know how much they needed would be at the closing table.
Yes.
We both know through our experiences how big a headache that could possibly be. That should not be possible at this time, in this day and age. They have to see it through in their hands on paper or through an email or something of that nature where they sign off on that documentation. But TRID in general, not an impact to Movement Mortgage in any way.
So as real estate agents, we don't really like change a whole lot, and that change happened, I guess, in October of last year, and I guess what Scott Shellenberger is telling us is that change actually, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing for the consumer for sure. It definitely looks out for your clients, my borrowers. It's making sure everybody's doing the right thing.
Let's talk about, before we take a break here in a minute, let's talk about how much better the real estate market is in 2016. Take us back, kind of your perspective, all the way back to the crash of 2008 and 9, and let's talk about just real briefly how ugly it was and how much better it is today.
Yeah, I'll go back as far as like 2004. We were doing loans if you could basically fog a mirror. And when I say that, you didn't need to prove documentation for income, asset. You basically had to have a credit score and you could move forward. Crash comes in 08, 09. The world changes overnight, as we both know. Yes. Everything kind of went so strict that it really made lending very, very difficult. In turn, selling houses and building houses very difficult. Today's market is getting back to where we hope it should be and could be. Documentation has definitely leveled off. Basic documentation needed, typically 2 years of income, 30 days of income for pay stubs, and 2 months of assets. So yeah, like it where we're at now. Struggle through those 08, 09, 2010 years. But I think everything's on the uptake. We're
talking with Scott Shellenberger of Movement Mortgage. And Scott, our listeners have listened to me lament about those days of 2009 and 10 when there was so many things kind of taken away from us in terms of selling homes. There were no jumbo mortgages for a long period of time. All the condo mortgages kind of went out the window, and so when you took away jumbo and condo, and there a lot of the first-time home buyer programs weren't what they were. I mean, the market, you can look back on it and say, well, it kind of makes sense why the numbers crashed so bad. You just, a lot of people when they go to buy a home are getting a mortgage. Today, much healthier situation, and as a much healthier economy, and as a result of that, we're seeing pretty good condo loans, really good jumbo loans, and obviously the conventional loans as well. And as a result of that, the mortgage industry is doing nothing right now to hold back the real estate market, and it's so much better than it was.
Yes, definitely. I think we overtook what in the lending world really. When that crash came, we just went so strict, so fast, and then we kind of curtailed away from that a little bit, knowing that, hey, we might have overdone it back then. As lenders, as you remember, a lot of lenders went out of the business.
Yes.
A lot of people were losing their homes, so there were some mistakes made. It's a great environment right now. It definitely has eased up. It's a great time to buy a home.
Well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back in just a second. And I love hearing Scott Shellenberger saying it's a great time to buy a home, because I agree with that too. I mean, it is really at 3 3/4% interest rate on a 30-year fixed. Amazing time for real estate. This is Charlottesville Insights. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. Please stay with us. You're a natural bro. As my wife would say, I have a face for radio. I steal Joe Thomas's line on
He's
that.
throwing trid at me.
I'm sorry. And
He said we'd wing it, then he throws trid at me.
Welcome back to Charlottesville Insights. This is Jeff Gaffney, your host, and with us on the program today we have Scott Shellenberger. Scott is the area manager of Movement Mortgage. We're talking about how to get a loan today. So just call us in today, and we'll take your loan application. Just kidding, Scott. But you can certainly go to movement.com today and get yourself pre-approved. A lot of our customers today, 95% of the real estate customers today start online. And
Wow.
so why not just venture over to movement.com, or if you can't remember that, just go to your favorite website, realestate3.com, and click the link for Movement Mortgage. Get yourself pre-approved. Makes all the difference.
Yes, definitely does.
Let's talk about your first-time home buyer loans. One of my favorite loans that's out there today that I talk a lot about on this program, I love the rural development, the USDA loan that people talk about. What we've seen with that, Scott, that clients really like about that program, for the most part, if the area qualifies for an RD loan, is that it's no money down. There are loan programs out there where you can purchase a loan, you can purchase a home rather, with no money down. And a lot of people don't realize that that type of loan still exists today.
Yes, the rural development loan is a fantastic loan. We're very fortunate in our area. Pretty much everywhere but Charlottesville City qualifies for the program. It is 100% financing. It allows for the seller to pay 6% of the closing costs. So 100% financing, 6% from seller, pay closing costs. You can actually get into a home without a penny. It has some leniency with credit scores. Really documentation-wise, it just requires an extra year W-2s or tax returns. And besides that, it's the same type of loan that's out there for everybody else. It's a great first-time home buyer loan. 2 qualifications basically when you start out: make sure the property qualifies, and make sure you don't make too much money. It's based on a median income.
Call Scott Shellenberger to find out the details on that loan and to find out if the property that you're looking at qualifies. But Scott, I believe we had one last month in the Mill Creek neighborhood just down Avon Street qualified for an RD loan. I know we've had some out, certainly when our customers are shopping out in Crozet. That qualifies, and as you drive up 29, there's a certain break point you get up there. I think it's almost just past the river. You drive up 29, and now you're in RD loan territory. But for a first-time home buyer, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. Just imagine getting out of college, and instead of paying $1,200-1,500 for rent, being able to buy a home pretty close to the city. And when you say Mill Creek and you say North 29, and actually have your money go towards ownership instead of in someone else's rental bin.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful opportunity.
I know. And so first-time home buyers have been a little bit slow to pull the trigger the last few years, and we've talked about that on this show. A lot of first-time home buyers show up and they've got student debt today. So anything that that a buyer can do if they've got that student debt, or they just kind of have to ride it out? Really, probably the answer is meet with one of your loan officers and see what's available.
Yeah, what we find in the industry right now is there's a lot of younger possible buyers that are kind of hesitant because maybe they don't know how it works, or maybe they think because they have that student debt that they won't qualify. All I can say is make the phone call, start the process.
Right.
You'd be amazed on what can and can't happen. Student debt, a lot of people have it. That's how we turn the world right now. That's how we get into the great jobs that people can get into. It's not going to hinder you from getting lending. So yeah, my advice is give somebody a call.
What would you say, and I know your perspective now, but I'm asking you not just as area manager for Movement Mortgage, but with 18 years of experience and you've seen the highs and lows of the real estate world, what would you say to a first-time home buyer who's in that, and we see it all the time, rent versus buy, and the rental price ranges today, particularly in the city of Charlottesville, I'm telling you, it's $15,000, $18,000, $2,000 a month. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about that versus using that same amount of money to go towards a potential mortgage to own your home? What advice would you have for somebody who's kind of going through that rent versus buy matrix?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll go back to experience for me and my wife way back when, and I don't want to be too particular here, but you really gotta, the first question you ask is how long you're gonna want to be in the area.
Yes.
And if you're gonna want to be here for any length of time, I'm saying 12, 24 months, you've got to make that phone call to see if you can buy. Think about this. Every $1,500 you give to a rental institution goes to that rental institution.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a mortgage for $1,500, you're building equity, you're building net worth.
Right.
It goes a long way in this world. Maybe you're not going to get the house the first time that you want to live in forever, but as you live there and you pay down that mortgage and the equity grows, you're gaining money, you're gaining net worth to buy that next house. It might be the one you want to live in for the rest of your life.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I would say, listen, if you have any inkling and maybe you don't know the process, reach out, call Movement Mortgage Loan Officer, and let's see what we can help you do.
That's good advice from Scott Shellenberger, area manager for Movement Mortgage. Scott, we get so many of our younger folks who are thinking about buying their first home and they end up in that rent versus buy scenario. And the other thing that you and I have talked about before is that if you end up making a purchase, you get a mortgage, there's also some tax protection in there as well. Tax write-off.
There is. Experience tells me this. The years I rented, my tax returns were a lot different than the years I owned.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Interest goes towards your tax deductions. It's a huge tax deduction.
Real estate taxes.
Yeah, real estate taxes, it's a big benefit. And just the ability to own, the ability to do what you want in your yard, the ability to paint your bathroom the color you want to paint it. It just goes a long way.
Home ownership. Let's talk about for a second the other great comeback in the market that we've seen is condominium sales in the Charlottesville area. We've seen a great uptick in condo sales, and a lot of those are, well, certainly investors like to buy condos. because they make great rental units. But we also have first-time home buyers, or the segment of the population that we call dockers. Dockers are people that come to Charlottesville, kind of what you mentioned earlier, Scott, in that 3 to 5 year time frame. They don't know if they're going to be here longer than that. So instead of renting for 3 to 5 years, they buy something that's certainly not their dream home, but a place that's a nice, solid investment where they feel like they can, again, get some tax protection while they own it, get a tax write-off, but also they'll be able to get their money back in the 3 to 5 years when they go to sell it, when they leave the area. Or the fallback, what's nice on condominiums, the fallback on most condominiums, you can keep it and rent it. And you have to just read the bylaws of the condominium, make sure that it's a leasable unit and not, because some of the condos in town, certain units will be designated owner occupied only. Just read through the fine print or get your real estate 3 agent to hold your hand on that. But let's talk about the condo financing. It's not what it was, but it's certainly, you can get into 10% down payment today, is 10 or 20?
Yeah, condo financing is a little unique. So what Movement brings to the table is we have our own condo division down in Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. So the quickest and easiest way to describe condo finance, without confusing everybody listening, is typically the investment or investor concentration is a big factor. Movement's here to help you get through that, get past that. If it's an FHA approved condominium project, you can still get the 96.5% financing.
Wow.
So there's some great options out there. If it's a VA approved condominium project and you were a veteran, served in our military, you can get 100% financing. So yeah, condos, I think about condos, I think about 3 things. When I get older and don't want to cut my own grass, condo, great place to be. If I'm in an area for a short period of time and I want to buy something instead of rent, it's like you said, rental possibilities are unbelievable. Third thing I think about is you first-time home buyers out there, typically a condo pricing is a little less than a lot of the homes. Excuse me. So condos, great opportunity.
We mentioned on the show 2 weeks ago, we were making a plug for a condo that our company just brought on the market in the Walker Square neighborhood in the city. 4 days later, sold. $265,000, sold, had multiple showings on it. The other property that I want to make a plug for, I don't know if you're familiar with this neighborhood, Scott, but it's called River Bend. Love the River Bend neighborhood. We have, if any of our listeners are in the market right now, it's 1 bedroom. 1 bedroom, it's on the top floor at River Bend. It overlooks the Rivanna River. It had this thing about the Rivanna River. I'm just crazy about the Rivanna River view. I love it.
I love it too. We're opening a retail spot on South Pantops Drive. My office overlooks the Rivanna River. I can see up to Monticello. It's peaceful.
Well, I'll have to talk to you about doing some financing sheets for this property because it's $140,000, and I'm thinking, of course, every time I walk into a property these days, I'm always thinking about I could live here. And I looked at this one, told my wife about it. She said she's not quite ready to scale down to that, but I am thinking about any first-time home buyers on the program today. $140,000 for an incredible condo at Riverbend. Give us a call. It's a great deal, and you know what? I have a feeling we get a mortgage on that today too.
Would love to help out a prospective buyer.
Scott Shellenberger, thanks for being on the show. This is Charlottesville Insights. If you get a chance today, make sure you get out and see some of the incredible open houses that Real Estate 3 has today. There's 3 beautiful homes open at Glenmore. Come on out. We'll see you next week on the program.
There you go.
And I'm holding open 2 of the 3.